Hello and welcome to another episode of Feeding Fatty. This is Roy.
This is Terry.
So we are the podcast that is chronicling my journey, our journey through wellness, trying to obtain wellness, maybe lose some weight, lose a lot of weight, get in better shape. And, we talk a lot about some things that are going on in our life, how we're progressing and what we're up to. But we also have professionals as guests on from time to time. And today is no different. Terry?
Kyla Lupo is a USA Triathlon certified coach with a master's in education from George Washington University. She brings years of experience in coaching people in a variety of situations, including triathlon. She represented Team USA at the 2019 ITU Multisport Championships in Pontevedra, Spain, as an age group Long Course Aquabiker. Kyla is a nationally ranked age group short course triathlete and finished second in the Athena division at the Illinois 2018 Triathlon Championships. In 2019, Kyla qualified for the USAT short course age group national championships that will be held in August of 2021. She believes that anyone can try in the body they have right now and works with athletes on a personal level to overcome their fear and doubts while getting fit and ready for the start line. Actively advocating for a radical level of body acceptance in sport and society, Kyla leads a team of people of all shapes and sizes that can be found at Team Go Big Life. Kyla, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Hi, Terry.
Hey.
Thanks for a great introduction.
Tongue twisting.
I know. There's all. I realize there's all these big words in there that, unless you're a triathlete, you have no idea what it means. So I'm like, just gonna go rewrite that.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your day to be with us. You know, part of this journey is, for me anyway, it's not only, wanting to lose weight, but also to stay in shape. I think, I set a lot during the day, and, the whole thing nowadays, it's setting is the new smoking and all of this stuff that's going on. We've become so sedentary, and then our diets have become so loaded with other stuff. Anyway, it's a bad convergence of stuff. And it's funny, we read an article yesterday that was just saying that from 1950 to 2015, somewhere in that range, we've extended our lifespan by about 10 years by medications and by just modern medicine. But they said that we have kind of bumped up into the where it's not cost prohibitive, and they say extending our life the next 10 years will be due to lifestyle changes. So anyway, I think that's interesting that, and I like what you say, that you can do it in anybody. We could go out and train to do whatever we put our mind to, that there is a path. And even if my opinion, even if we're overweight, if we still move around, it's better than being overweight and sitting on the couch and, eating another bag of Doritos.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you seeing with people that are coming to you? First off, let's start with, how did you find yourself here? I mean, it's a very impressive background and a lot of, doing a triathlon. My dad used to do them, and they're brutal. I mean, it's not something that you just wake up one day and say, well, I think we may just do a little Papa Triathlon in this afternoon or something like that. So how did you find yourself in this space?
It's right. It's a really great story. I like a lot of people out there, I made a commitment. I wanted to feel fit and healthy and better in my body. Part of that was losing weight, but that wasn't my driving factor. I really just I wasn't moving as much as I used to when I was younger. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a 5K. And so I did a 5K. And then I said, I'm going to do a race every month for 12 months. Wow. So the year of 2015, I did a race every month. And I got up to a 10K, which is 6.2 miles. And then at some point I realized that I remembered, I used to be a swimmer. I swam all through high school and college, and thought I should get back in the pool. Like that will really help me be a better runner because lung efficiency, all that other stuff. And then I remembered that I also really liked bicycling. So I got a bicycle and I was really enjoying it. And I thought, wow, I wonder if there's a way that I could be like a cycling racer. For whatever reason, like I just kept single sporting. And in that, someone said, well, it depends on what kind of cycling you want to do. Because if you want to do a triathlon, that's one kind. If you want to do cyclocross, that's different. If you want to be time trials, all these fancy cycling words. And I was
Yeah.
like, triathlon, you say?
Yeah.
And that was sort of the end of the beginning, I guess. And I set myself out to finish a triathlon. I found a team. I trained with them. It was really great. And I finished my first sprint triathlon in June of 2016. And as I crossed that finish line, I knew I had found what I was meant to do in this world.
Huh.
And then I realized, sort of started looking around at the people around me that weren't just the ones on my team. And all I saw were skinny, super fit, really muscular looking people. And then there was the people on my team that I trained with, not my team, but the team I was training with. And we were all sorts of bodies, right? We were what a lot of people would call overweight. We were, super short, super tall, like didn't look like athletes. Some of us did, admittedly, right? There are, of course, some of those. And I realized if I wanted to see more people that looked like me finishing triathlons, I needed to be the person that could show them they could do it.
Oh, awesome.
Right. So I went and got my coaching certification, like my actual triathlon coaching certification. I've been working with people in a variety of different situations, coaching them, whether it's been women or men or grandmas. I spent some time of my life teaching some of our lovely grandparents in this world how to use technology. So lots of different places where I've had to meet people where they are and help them get them where they want to be. And then the team just sort of formed itself. People started realizing what I was doing and then I got this and then that, and then the team grew into what it is today. And it's an incredible group of people who are just so welcoming and supportive of each other.
Oh, there's Kitty Cat.
Welcome and supporting of each other. And some of us are what I would call like serious athletes. And some of us haven't even ever done a triathlon. This is Bernard. I can't. He's going to go to sleep. There he goes. He's going to go to sleep. So on my team, I have the Athena, not the Athena. I have, she's the Athena Long Course National Champion of 2019. And then in 2020, we had, no races. But the couple that we did have down here in Florida, she won her age group for an ultra distance triathlon, which is what a lot of people will call an Ironman. But I just call it ultra. Like Ironman and I have a really interesting relationship, but that's beside the point. I call it an ultra distance. And then we have someone who in 2019 had both hips replaced and is looking forward to doing their first triathlon. It should have been in May, but it got rescheduled to August. Wow. So we have the whole spectrum of everyone on the team. And I think that what pulls us all together is this idea that everyone has a place and you don't have to look a certain way. Yeah. You can do anything right now in this body kind of thing. Yeah. So that's where I come from, the long and short of it.
So,
and all of that stuff in the bio about like all the things, all it means is that, I know how to work the number system such that by finishing, I qualify to go and do bigger things. And so I have athletes that come to me that say, I want to go represent Team USA. How do I do this? And it's like, let's find your strengths and we're going to play into your strengths. And so when I went to Spain, I'm not a fast runner. I cannot compete with people when I run. I'm good, but I'm not fast. So when I went to Spain, I did Aquabike, which is swim and bike. And I'm a fast swimmer and I'm a good cyclist. So, you sort of figure
Okay.
out how to get to the goals that you want to do with the skills that you have and amplifying what you're good at.
So, so
Just kidding.
if you remind everybody what is the distances for the triathlon, and then the difference between that and the Ironman.
Yeah.
Just give us a little context.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
So generally, there's 4 distances, right?
Okay.
Sprint, Olympic, half, and full. And then people like to invent their own. So there's super sprints, which are very short. And then when you get to the international level, there's actually a distance between a half and a full that it's all over the place. So a sprint is generally, it's the shortest. So it's anywhere from 500 to 1,000 meter swim, which is, a quarter to a half-ish of a mile. And then a 12 to a 15 mile bike ride, and then a 3.1 mile run. And then it just sort of scales up from there, right? We have an international or an Olympic or an international, depends on how you call it, which is a little bit longer swim, 20 to 25 on the bike, and then 6.2 miles. When you get to the half, that's what we call a 70.3. That's when it gets a little serious. It's a 1.25 mile swim and a 56 mile bike ride, and then easy peasy, a half marathon, so 13.1 miles.
Wow.
And then that ultra distance, or the Ironman distance, is 140.6. So you may see car stickers that say 140.6. And what you can know about that is that person is legitimately committed, because it takes over your life to train for one of those. So that's a 2.5 mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, and then, because you're not done, a marathon, 26.2 miles.
Oh my gosh.
And,
so
I had an athlete go that distance last year, and I have one doing it this year too. And it's, from a coach, so much fun to train them, because you really get to help them push beyond these mental boundaries that they have in themselves.
So how much training? I mean, I know it's a lot, but like a typical week or month, how much training is involved?
That's a really great question. Let's use the example of going an ultra distance, because everything scales down from there, right? So I plan my trainings in 2 weeks of build. So you have 2 weeks where you're working pretty hard, and then 1 week of what we call recovery, where you're just sort of taking a little bit easier, right?
Okay.
So you'll have 3 runs in a week. Sort of an easy run, a track workout or a speed workout, and then a long run on the weekend. If you're going an ultra, that long run is anywhere from 13 to 20 miles. And
Wow.
then you sort of pull in the cycling as well. Oh my goodness. Stop it. Come here. Go. Oh my gosh. It's so unprofessional. You so adorable. It's like you really just get to see what it's like to work from home.
That's right.
So then for me, the magic number is 3. There's 3 run workouts, 3 cycling workouts, and 2 or 3 swimming workouts. And then we also put in yoga, Pilates, and a strength or 2 workout in there, right? So we're really trying to hit all the things. The swim workouts are just like swim team. A lot of people did swim team when they were kids. So you're out there and you're doing drills and things. And sometimes you're just swimming a whole long thing, but you're in the pool 2 or 3 times a week. And then the cycling is a lot like the running. You have just, depending on the course that you're doing, you might have a lot of hills. So you'd have a workout that's just where you're going to go climb hills for an hour and a half. And then you'll have sort of a speed workout like you do when you're running, because the fast stuff where your heart is really beating really hard, really fast, that's what helps you go the long and steady 20 miles, right? So, we slowly build up over time. And when you have, it's funny, you'll have a peak weekend, right? Because you never do a full ultra and you never do a full half until the day you do.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much time to recover from that. It takes like 2 or 3 months for your body to recover from an ultra distance, and at least a month for a 70.3. Now, like professional athletes do it differently, but they get massages every day. They get exactly the nutrition that they need. They get the hot baths, the cold baths, like all that kind of stuff. So on a weekend when you're peaking, you're going to go out for like 120, 130-mile bike ride, and then you can get up the next morning and go for a 20 or a 22-mile run.
Wow.
And that's, that's pretty much your weekend. So when people decide to go an ultra distance, I'm the first person to say yes. I never say no to anyone. Like, no is not in my coach vocabulary.
Yeah.
And it's a serious commitment. It can be 20 to 30 hours of training a week. And
Wow.
everyone else in your life has to be on board with that. Like, if you have a partner and kids, everyone's got to understand what's going on,
Yeah.
right? It is so my athlete that went in ultra, it was like an 18 to 24 month process. When you really look back to where she started, but that last year, that last 12 months, hilarious how it all came out, but that last 12 months is where it's just, you really have to commit to it.
Yeah.
And she did. And my other one that's going, the other kid.
You are the cat
My
lady.
other one that's going in ultra this year, she has a very different life than the other one, my other athlete. And so different, it's always the same kind of training. I think what sort of sets me apart as a coach is planning around the rest of their life. So they get what they need to be able to go to work, be there for their kids, have time with their partner, and sit around and watch TV if that's what they really want to do.
Yeah.
So, and then of course for a sprint, you just scale it all down. I still want you doing each discipline 3 times a week, right? But your bike rides are shorter, your runs are shorter, everything is just shorter. So, so it's the same kind of thing. 3 sports, 3 times a week.
Yeah, and I think it's good to mention, too, that, when we talk about the actual race itself, the marathon, no matter what the distance, this all happens back to back. It's not like stretched out over a week or a month. It's like, you run, you run, you
get in the water at 6 a.m. and you do your swim, and then you come out of the water and you're all wet, and you go and you get your bike, and some people change clothes and some people don't. You go out and you ride your bike, and then you come back in and you put on your sneakers and you go out and do your run, and you're done.
Yeah.
Super easy, but it's all in one day.
Yeah.
So my athlete that went in ultra this past year, it was a really big deal. She finished in 16 hours and 45 minutes. And that's huge because it's like under the time cutoff. She did not do an Ironman branded race, but it's under the time cutoff. But she was moving her body for 16 hours and 45 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
That is crazy.
I'm just tired hearing about it. I need a nap.
Me too.
Well,
I'm like,
and when we talk about that, the physical part, I mean, you've got to get in shape and you have to start somewhere with, the workouts. But the other part of this is, I'm sure you really have to dial in your diet as well.
Yeah, it's nutrition is a huge, huge part of it. And one of the things I find more often than not with my athletes is they're not eating enough. And they just, or they're not getting the right balance of things, right? So we're really anti-diet on the team. We're very much into eating what we want when we feel like what we want, right? And the thing is, that rarely means eating a bag of Doritos. That usually means having a nice, well-rounded meal full of proteins and carbs and fats that really helps nourish your body so that you can get up the next morning and go run 20 miles, right? There are definitely some athletes where we have to count calories when we're looking at ultra distance athletes. You go out on a 7-mile bike ride or 7-hour bike ride, that's like 3,000 calories. You have to eat that back or else your body's going to start, eating itself. So then it becomes this, how do we get in 3,000 calories? So we really do start to count a little, but it's always from a perspective of we are doing what is right for our bodies and what they need at that time. And it's really tough as an athlete to not listen to the enormous amount of supplements and diet culture and pushing things and doing all this stuff because it's in our faces all the time. But we have a nutritionist that works with our team who sort of, that's her specialty. The two things is, how do you fuel to be an athlete? And then also, how do you honor your body and eat in a healthy, real way that isn't denying yourself the things that you want.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, we talk
Yeah,
about very well-rounded, you know, we don't want to do anything to the extremes, but part of that
absolutely.
includes, and I'm sure even more, is water, hydration, and then sleep. And I know that, you know, sleep is a definite downfall of mine. I've talked about that a lot because, you know, you get up a little bit draggy. This morning, it's like, I really need to go to the gym. And I'm not pushing myself to even do anything remotely
Right.
close to a triathlon, or even not even close to one segment of, you know, the either the swimming, running, or that. So, you know, get that straight,
Right.
you know, but it's like, I'm tired. I don't feel like it. And so, you know, I talk about it a lot, that sleep seems to be the trigger to begin my downfall, you know, to spiral back into, well, I'd rather just sit here and I'll watch some TV and rest and maybe eat a nice snack or something like that,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And then we crave that.
It,
Also, I think it makes me crave the carbs and the sugar because I want to, you know, it's like, I'm dragging. I need to, you know, feel that little quick pickup. And then again, that
right.
cycle, you eat it and then you crave more and then you eat more, then you feel worse. Anyway, it's just terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. It is that tired. That's one of the first things you have to wrestle with. Am I tired or am I exhausted?
Yeah.
Should I really skip this run? Because if I go out, it's actually going to be detrimental. Or do I just need to push myself a little bit so that, that thing, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that is a real thing that happens to the best of us, to
Yeah.
the best athletes. Am I tired or am I exhausted?
And how do
Right.
you tell the
Yeah,
difference?
it's tough. You learn that when you're tired and you go out for that 8 mile run and halfway through you hit the wall
Uh-huh.
hard and you have to call your partner to come pick you up.
Wow.
Yeah, that was exhausted. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have gone out on this run. That was exhausted.
Yeah.
Like it is, you just sort of learn over time. And it's one of the things that when people are brand new, um, they it's one of the ways we realize we're not hydrating enough, like you talked about, or we're not eating enough because we're super tired all the time.
Yeah.
And so I remember that first year or so of doing triathlons, my nutrition was so out of whack and I was exhausted. For 6 months, I was exhausted all the time. Called a nutritionist. She's like, what are you doing? Where's all your protein? Where are your carbs? Why aren't you eating any carbs? And it was a whole new awakening.
Yeah.
And then she was like, how many hours do you sleep a night? I'm like, I don't know, 5 or 6.
Aye.
Yeah.
No. When
Yeah.
you're at the height of your training, you need like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
That's where everything settles in to your body, is when you're sleeping. So
Yeah.
it's really important to get that rest. That's why we have that recovery week. Every 2 weeks we have, sort of
Yeah.
an easier week.
Yeah, and I think that difference too for me is, you know, once you get to the gym and just kind of start walking and start the blood pumping, you can tell either you really start to feel better and you're like, okay, I'm glad I did it, or you just really start to wilt more and be like, I just need to really regroup here and start over again.
Yeah, just getting
Absolutely.
there. Just getting there. I mean, making yourself go and get that's key.
Yeah, for sure. So when you know, this takes a big mindset, and I think that we can, you know, what I'm trying to relate this to is not necessarily that I want to do the, you know, the triathlon or anything strenuous right this moment, but I think it's that the benefit is the mindset that you have to work with people to get their mind right,
Yeah.
that this is going to be, you know, it's going to be work, it's going to be a struggle, and it's going to be worth it. And so I look at it that way, as like with trying to dial in everything, that it takes a lot, but it will be worth it. So how do you help? I don't know, maybe somebody's come to you and they've gone 2 weeks and they're like, I can't go on. I just can't do this anymore. And I know
Right.
there's a lot more to it, like time
Yeah, yeah.
constraints and this and that. But I mean, you know, how would it's somebody that's just kind of like, fatigued, you know, kind of how do you talk them down off that and get them back on track?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, the first thing I'll say is none of my athletes would go 2 weeks without telling me that was going on,
Yeah.
right? We check in the training software I use. I can see whether or not they're doing what I've prescribed. We comment back and forth. When they skip a workout, like we have, we have team meetings every week where everyone checks in with
Okay.
everyone. Um, but I literally had this almost exact situation happen where an athlete came to me and said, I hated this workout. And it was a track workout. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, well, what's going on? And she's like, I feel like a failure when I do it. I am exhausted the rest of the day. I just don't, I don't want to do it. You can see I skipped it last week because I don't want to do it. And that's right in that moment when it's not fun anymore. That's when we change sails. We change the course of the ship. We change up what's going. And so I said, okay, we're not doing those workouts anymore. No more of those. I just want you to go out. It's so funny. I just want you to go out and do an easy 7 or 8 miles,
Yeah.
which makes me laugh. The
Yikes.
idea of an
Yeah.
easy 7 or 8 miles,
Yeah.
but that's where she is. And 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 then we sort of talked about what else was going on in life, right? And it turns out that they were way behind on work for work. So they felt like they were drowning in that. They missed an event with their kids because tired, because training, because other work stuff,
Yeah.
right? So we really tried to suss out the root of what was going on and figure that out. Um, and then you put things back in order, right? You figure out where your priorities are and you make sure that the most important things get done. And the most important thing for you might not be training.
Yeah.
So you got to have a coach who meets you where you are, right? So
Right.
some people are super serious and they want a coach that tells them you got to go out and do it. You got to get it done and I don't want excuses. But those aren't the people I work with. The
Yeah.
people I work with have real jobs and real lives and real kids and they do this for fun.
Right.
But really getting to the core of why are you doing what you're doing,
Right.
right? And if it's, for whatever reason it is, if it's not a reason that sparks you, that excites you, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And that is definitely something we spent a lot of time doing in 2020. Why do we race? Why do we do triathlons? And if it's because you want the finish line and the medal and the t-shirt, well, there weren't any in 2020. So now we've got
Yeah.
to figure out how else we're going to get you motivated. So it was a really interesting year, but
So how did
yeah.
you how did you cope with the COVID situation as far as your coaching goes? I mean,
Ooh,
I know that's a loaded
yeah.
question because there are so many different things that you had to
Yeah.
do, but I mean, did
Oh, yeah.
you go virtual? Had you been virtual before? How'd that
It's a
work?
really great question. We like to say now that we have this great phrase, COVID safe. We've been COVID safe since 2017 when we started the team.
Oh wow.
It's always been virtual. We have our team meetings are all Zoom. So I have athletes in Iowa, in Oakland, in Los Angeles, in Washington D.C., Fort Lauderdale. I've got athletes everywhere.
Wow.
And so when we talk about, we 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 started tossing around, we hated Zoom before everyone else hated Zoom. Like it
The
was
first
that
haters.
sort of
Right.
thing. And it's interesting, right? Because I saw other coaches who couldn't pivot or who refused to
Yeah.
pivot. And I saw them go out of business.
Yeah.
And my team actually flourished because people realized they wanted a coach who wasn't focused on the finish line for them,
Yeah.
right? I had a lot of athletes who adjusted their sails to be less about racing and more about staying fit or getting strong. But because I already had all this stuff in place to be virtual and to support and to coach and to create community, the only thing, and it's a really big thing though, but the only thing that really changed is we didn't get to see each other at races.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I
Okay.
saw a lot of my athletes lean into the community like I had not seen before, because of, of missing
Yeah.
everything.
Did
So,
did most people hang
yeah.
with it, or were there some that were like, "Hey, if we
Oh,
can't
yeah.
race, I just don't want to do this"? Or did most? I guess any probably athletes
Um,
at that level, they wanted to maintain some form of being in shape just for
oh,
the
yeah.
return of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I did. I had two or three athletes who were like, hey, if there's not a race, then here's what I want to do, right? I want to be able to do 10 push-ups, or I really am going to train so that I can do rag bra, which is a bike ride across Iowa over a week, right? And that in itself, of course, is its own sort of start line, but that's something you train for like 2 years. Um, so some of them did pivot, and I did have to get clever with the coaching because it was like, how do I maintain my athlete that went in ultra? How do we maintain that fitness if there isn't going to be a race?
Yeah.
And so we did. I've got 4 different levels of membership on my team, and so some athletes stepped down to where there wasn't a training plan, and we sort of said like, here's what you should do every 3 weeks, kind of thing. But I had new athletes come in as well who were like, I've got time. I don't have to commute to work anymore. So I've got 3 hours every day.
All right.
Let's get serious about this. Like, let's have something positive to focus on. And that's getting fit, getting healthy, getting strong, and getting ready for 2021.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. And it just I think it, like I said, I want to take that same mindset that this is like it's not a one time. We go back to the gym and then it's just over. That we have to continue, even for myself, just to be in some form of normal shape because like I said,
Yeah.
becoming sedentary. Man, I tell you what, my bones, my joints, everything is just tight. I feel tight. That's another thing is the stretching. Do you have a good stretching program? Because,
Yeah, you mentioned yoga earlier.
Oh, so funny.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, I don't have a stretching program,
okay.
but I always recommend people. It's so funny. I should call her and tell her, or email her or something. There's a great woman who does yoga with Adrienne, and she's a real person, and it's real yoga, and it's not, she doesn't. If she messes up in the recording, she just keeps going. She doesn't go back and edit in the right thing or
Yeah.
whatever. And so a lot of my athletes really, really love her. She's got a whole YouTube channel. That's where I send my athletes. Now, she doesn't resonate with everyone,
Yeah.
right? So there are, and I am one of them, people who are so averse to wasting time on yoga or stretching, but it's the single greatest thing you can do. So I found a YouTube of yoga to do first thing in the morning in your bed,
Oh wow.
and yoga to
Oh, I
do
might could do
last thing
that.
at night before you go to sleep. Well, I'm already laying down. I'm already in bed. So like I put that on and I do a little stretching before I go to sleep. I do a little stretching first thing in the morning, and that's made a really big difference for me personally. So it's finding what works for you,
Right.
because like you said before, going to the gym once and then never going again, that's not going to do it,
Right.
right? We want some consistency with that. And start small. Small steps make big changes.
Right.
That has
So
been the
finding the
theme.
thing that works for you and then following through on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been the small steps. That's been a theme for everything we've been talking about. Like, it's just finding the
Oh, yeah.
small steps.
Yeah, and there's also been some evidence lately about trying to make too many changes, and again, everybody has to find their own way. But this I'd read, I don't know if it's a book or an article, but a guy wrote a great piece about this. He's like, okay, you wake up today and you're fed up with being overweight, you're fed up with not exercising, you're fed up with the types of foods that you eat. So it's like you try to change, 5 things. Not a little bit, drastically. You make all these drastic changes, and then you just can't keep up with everything. So, I'll get your opinion because this kind of leads into training for something big. But I think probably better to add little components, little steps of each thing that you want to change instead of just, everything all at once.
Cold turkey.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's really tough to just be like, so you've been in the same rut for 5 years and all of a sudden you're just gonna everything and do a new thing. Like, no, that's not actually gonna work. It's not gonna be sustainable, right? So it's small steps. We'll get personal, right? So for me, I'm training for a big race this year, to qualify to go and do another ITU World Championship in Australia in 2022. And I was really struggling. I was really struggling with showing up on the days I needed to show up. And I realized I can't just boom. All right, here we go. 4 days in the pool, 4 days on the bike, 2 days of strength, 2 days of yoga. Let's go. When I hadn't been doing anything but morning and evening yoga sometimes.
In bed.
Right?
Yeah.
So I took one thing. I said, I'm going to swim, and I'm going to swim 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And I'm going to get that locked in place, that is just the expectation that that's what's going to happen, right? Because it means getting up early, which means going to bed a little earlier. It means, a lot of different things. And so I've done that consistently for 4 weeks. It probably helps that I hired a coach. So now I feel like if I don't go to the pool, I'm wasting money. Yeah. That's probably what's helping. But so I've got that locked in. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I go to the pool. Saturday morning, I go to the ocean and swim with a group of people I really like. So this week, coming up, this is where I'm going to start putting in the cycling, because the swimming is on autopilot. Yeah. So now we're putting in the cycling, right? And it's tough because finding the right days for it with scheduling and all that stuff. Like when you work for yourself, you think, oh, you can do whatever you want. Yeah. You really can't.
Yeah.
Like it's such a myth.
Yeah.
It's such a myth. So getting one thing in place and establishing that takes 21 days to make a habit, right? Then you put one more thing in. And chances are that second thing you put in, it's going to pick up a little faster because you've already established a rhythm, right?
Right.
So then it just sort of snowballs, right? Small steps, big changes. Yeah. So one thing at a time.
Yeah, we're in the process of changing over and trying a plant-based diet. So I think which week are we on?
Yeah.
Are we on week
about
3?
The third week? Yeah. We've made it
Nice.
through our 3 weeks, and we're not being crazy. If we want a piece of fish or piece of meat, we'd go out and get it. That's not it. We're just trying to eliminate as much that and dairy as we possibly can and see.
Yeah.
It's been a blessing for me. On my blood sugar has been not as low as where I need it to be, but it's been stable. I don't see the huge spikes, and huge. Anyway, some stuff moderating. But I hadn't been to the gym in about 2 months, and went last night, and I just I am enthusiastic. Let me put it that way. Enthusiastic, maybe an overachiever. I don't know, but it's like I made it there, so I want to do everything I possibly can and do as much as I can. But last night I just had to dial it back, and of course Terry said, dinner's going to be ready and you got to be home by this time. So she gave me a deadline, so I didn't hang out there all night. But
I knew you'd want to be there for 4 or 5 hours. I'm like, okay. And then you wouldn't be, it would take all that recovery time before he could go back.
But, I walked for about 20 minutes, easy, light walk. And then, I just feel very tight. So what I did, I went over and did a couple of, upper body machines, just very lightweight, just did 1 rep of each one.
Nice.
And then the legs, the same thing. I did a couple of them just to, kind of start loosening up. I will tell you that for as little as I did, I'm very sore this morning. And then, we didn't get a lot of sleep. There was a little episode somewhere, we live out in the country. And so, I guess after the bars closed last night, somebody was driving down the main road not far from us, and they were setting off some firearms Like not just once, but there was like,
I mean
20, 25 shots at, so 2:30 this morning, we're up.
like 4 or 5 bursts of shots about 2:15, 2:30 a.m.
Yeah, we're up seeing if we're under attack or something
I
like
woke
that.
Roy up. I'm like, Roy,
my
I think that was gunshot. I think that was gunshots.
So anyway, but
gosh.
then that, so I've been dragging today, and I think that's a little bit, maybe another reason why I'm a little sore, but it felt so good. When I got home last night, I just told Terry, I said, I've got to fight and find a way to get in there every day just to do something, just that movement.
Yeah.
It's so good for me. And
Or every other day, so you can build up to it.
yeah.
Every couple days, and we can walk around here.
Yeah. And it's a
Yeah,
good time for me to clear my head. When we go for a walk, it's just, that's my meditation as
That's it.
well, I think, is just gives me time to
Absolutely.
think. And
Yeah.
where we live in such an awesome place that we're surrounded by nature. So when we go out for a walk, we're just out in the middle of the woods. And it is such such an experience. It
we
really
just have
is.
to watch for snakes.
Yeah, right.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you
So
for.
the key to
go ahead.
that
Yeah.
soreness,
Uh-huh.
PS.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So a little bit more hydration than usual,
Okay.
right? And a little bit more protein than usual.
Okay.
You usually the day of or the day after I hit the gym, that's when I break down and I'll have a protein smoothie, right?
Okay.
Which is hard because I also try to eat a lot of not processed, right? We call it a low to the earth and what is it? Something and low to the earth, meaning, plant-based stuff, right? But I have a really great protein powder that I like that's made out of pea protein, PEA protein.
Wow.
And so, a scoop or two of that, a little bit of milk, some spinach. That extra protein is what's going to help your muscles feel a little bit better. And as soon as you can get that in, that's why all of like what I call the lunkheads at the gym, they've always got that like protein blast thing that they're chugging.
Yeah.
There's stuff behind that, right? Of course, they're chugging the whey protein, which is not as great for you. But, if you're going plant-based, there's pea protein, there's soy protein, which is all right for a dude. So there's lots of different choices, but just upping that protein intake by just like an extra 20, 30 grams, which is, just a scoop or two. That'll really help with that soreness.
Yeah.
And if you can, and don't knock it till you try it, an Epsom salt bath with a little bit of baking soda in it will do wonders.
Oh, I want a bath.
Wonders for you. So don't knock it.
No,
You
I'm
don't
not.
have to light candles or anything.
I
You
am
don't have to put lavender in there.
Yeah, I am so not
But,
against not against the hot bath at
Yeah.
all. Oh my gosh,
He
it
likes
makes
a bath.
Oh yeah.
it just
No,
makes
it'll
my
be
whole
lovely.
body feel better.
And then if you want to go every day, look at me. I can't not be a coach.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the gym every day, there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah.
right? Do your arms one day and do your legs the next day.
Yeah.
Always do a little bit of a core workout because that benefits everything. But arms one day, legs one day. And that way, when you're sore and a little tired the next day, you're like, well, that's all right. That's all right. I'm going to work my arms and my chest and my back today. So
Right.
that'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's when you go. But you can also look up online. There's something called 3-day splits. And that's it. It's like actual, here's what you do on these 3 days. So you maximize your time at the gym. And so like one day will be, these muscle sets and that muscle set and that sort of thing. I ask my athletes to do strength like twice a week, and then yoga as well. And so but triathletes do different kinds of strength training because we never isolate one muscle.
Yeah.
We always want to work two muscles at the same time because that's what we do when we're out racing.
Right.
So we're doing any of our sports. So, but a 3-day split might actually be really great for you because then it's like, you lock in those 3 days a week and this is what you go and do. And then on the odd days, you and Terry can go out for a nice walk and not get bit by snakes. And,
Right.
yeah.
All right. Well, any
Can't
other
not coach.
no, that's great.
awesome.
So any other tips and tricks before we wrap this up that you'd give anybody that's either just wanting to start
thinking
getting in shape or maybe even wants to take that next step and
Small
train?
steps make big changes.
Okay.
Oh, so if you just wanted to get started, the best thing you can do, absolutely honestly, the best thing you can do is find a coach or a team that knows how to work with beginners, right? camaraderie is one of the greatest things about triathlon. And when you find a coach who really knows how to work with beginners, they're going to give you plans and training and all that other stuff that's going to meet you right where you are, right? And in theory, that coach shouldn't cost a lot of money. So in theory, some coaches do. At the very least, finding a community or a team, like Facebook works with that. There are only a few coaches out there that have a level of membership in their team that's just community. I have that level. And so if you want to come and check out that, that's good. And then small steps make big changes, right? And so little things, start with 2 workouts a week. And then there's more than enough time to get up to the 6 or 7 a week that triathletes usually do. Some triathletes, but small steps make big changes. And find yourself a community that will support you and tell you what mistakes to not make.
That's great advice. So what is something that you do every day that you feel like adds a lot of value? And it can be professional or personal, but just a habit, an app, computer program, anything like that.
Something I do every day. Well, every day I do the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Okay.
Probably that's and I drink water. Those are probably the 2 things I do every single day. What I try to do every single day is spend 15 or 20 minutes in the morning or in the evening, it depends on where I am, figuring out how I'm going to spend my time that day or the next day, right? A lot of times, so like today, when we're done, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes planning out Monday and Tuesday, right? Because I'm trying to get that bike locked in. But spending time planning your time, that's, that way when I come into the office in the morning, I'm like, nope, I know what I need to be working on right now. It's right? And then, find something fun that engages your brain, whether it's a Sudoku or a crossword puzzle or like some puzzly game on your phone or your computer, and
See,
do
Roy?
That every day.
Oh, mine's just junk.
Because that's going to keep your mind sharp, and it's something that you can look forward to every day. So, Yeah,
I think that's important about the, we always say plan your work and work your plan, because, you come in and sit down in the morning with the text and the phone and emails and just so much stuff to get distracted that if you've got a plan, you can come in, sit down and get on it. I'm much more productive when I can do that.
Yeah, there's too much noise everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, all right. Well, tell everybody how they can, tell them who you like to work with, how you can help them, and of course, how can they reach out and get a hold of you?
Awesome. So I really like to work with beginner triathletes and triathletes who want to take on a big challenge, but don't know where to start, right? And I really come at it from what I call a holistic, heart-centered approach, which is you are an entire human being with an entire life, and I know that triathlon's not the center of that, and I'm going to figure out how you can get everything in there, right? And we are committed to a radical level of body acceptance, so it doesn't matter where you are on whatever scale, whether it's your bathroom scale, your gender scale, your race scale, whatever it is, you're going to be welcome on my team with open arms. So if you've not experienced that in other places, come on over and let us love you. And you can find me at teamgobig.life. So teamgobig.life. And from there, you can navigate to all the other places on the website, and you can schedule a 30-minute discovery session with me where I get to learn all about you and what's going on in your life and figure out whether or not you're a good fit for our team. And if you're not, I know so many coaches, and I know the good ones, and I'm going to point you in that right direction, because the last thing I want is for you to be in the wrong place.
Great, and we will put all that in the show notes. But I think the couple things that you, couple things you touched on that need to probably be emphasized are that the acceptance part is that it's so important to find a group that you feel comfortable because if you don't feel comfortable with the group, no matter what the level or how great their plan is, you're not going to take part and do that. So the acceptance part,
Absolutely.
but also the discovery to find out where people are. Because, unfortunately, the internet, sometimes it's a one pill fixes all. So it's like, hey, I'm a coach. I got, this plan worked for Joe. It's going to work for you. And it's like, well, me and Joe may be totally different or have different goals or whatever. So that, meeting people where they're at, that's an awesome thing. And that's something to keep in mind when you're selecting business coaches, athletic, sporting coaches, health coaches, whatever. Just make sure that somebody is going to take the time to really talk to you, find out what your goals are, find out where you are, find out your hurdles. I mean, just like me, if I came to you and said, I want to, run a triathlon in 2 weeks, at least you can talk me down from that and say that may not be the best thing. And then look at the schedule too, because whatever we do in life, work, family, all that stuff has to come first and has to be worked in there somewhere. And then, so finding that good mesh, you can't just say, look, you got to give me, 2 hours a day at this time. So anyway, I think those are just important points to emphasize to the audience that, make sure you find somebody that can really take an interest in you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Roy, if you wanted to do a triathlon in 2 weeks, I wouldn't say no to you, right?
You said at the beginning.
Yeah.
But we would have a serious discussion about what kind of race you wanted to have and what your goals for that were. And then we would get, if you said you want to do an Ironman, we would figure it out. And you would go in with a realistic set of expectations.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to say no. It's just I can't say no to anyone.
Well,
that's why my kittens keep walking by.
Maybe Terry let me roll the window down while she drove me through the course. At least I could smell the fresh air,
Right.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Be honking the horn the whole way.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Feeding Fatty. Of course, I'm your host, Roy.
I'm Terry.
And we appreciate you listening very much. You can always find us at www.feedingfatty.com. We're on all the major social media network platforms, as well as all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to regularly, please check us out. Please let us know, and we'll be glad to get that added for you. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your family.
Thanks, Kyla.
Thank you.